Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. President of IU Health South Central Region, Brian Shockney, reported increasing COVID-19 hospitalizations across the region. He spoke during the November 13th COVID-19 press conference.
Our volumes have increased 40% of just COVID patients over our peak volume from April. Governor Holcomb's press conference on Wednesday, it was a powerful reminder of why it's important that we as individuals take this very seriously. As an organization, we continue to have plans in place. We meet with our incident command daily, operations planning 3 times per day, to make sure that we are on high alert and ready to transition on any part of our surge plan as necessary.
Shockney said that heightened numbers strain hospital resources. However, he said the hospital is well-staffed with nurses. Monroe County Health Administrator Penny Caudill said the community COVID-19 testing site opened on Monday, November 16th.
So right now we expect the hours to be 8 to 3 on Monday and Wednesdays, 10 to 7 on Tuesdays, and Fridays, 9 to 3 on the first and the third Saturday of the month. And people do need to make a reservation. They need to register online. That is on our website, so you can do that. I will tell you, to be perfectly honest, the registration process has a lot of questions. They're not all long, but there are a lot of questions, and it is really important in order to move the line at the clinic quickly that people complete that registration before they get there.
Caudill said walk-in appointments are not accepted at this site. She encouraged the community to cooperate with contact tracers and quarantine when potentially exposed. Indiana University Assistant Vice President for Strategic Partnerships, Kirk White, said Indiana University will require pre-arrival COVID-19 testing for all students next semester. The Richland Bean Blossom School Board heard a social-emotional learning report during their November 16th meeting. Project leader Jennifer Anderson said the school was able to hire 2 psychologists through the Trauma-Informed Multi-Tiered Systems of Support grant.
One of them at the doctorate level and one of them at the EDS level. We also were able to hire a licensed mental health counselor, which is a incredible bonus for RBB to have somebody whose sole responsibility is to counsel students, especially in the elementary level. She has a skill set that not many other people have, and she's not bogged down in a way by testing that counselors tend to do in the secondary level. So to have an elementary licensed mental health counselor to support our students is quite novel, and it's also an incredible benefit to our students.
Anderson said 2 graduate student interns are available to support virtual students. Project leader Tom Norris mentioned multiple levels of support are available based on an individual student's intake.
So one student may get, so many hours of support through therapy. Another student could be provided with therapy and what is called a skills package. And just recently, Adult and Child has provided us with a skills specialist that can go into the classrooms and work one-on-one with students directly. For a lot of our students in a self-contained classroom, the ultimate goal is to get them back out into a general ed classroom. A skills specialist could actually go with that student and provide them with behavior support that an instructional assistant really is just not as qualified for.
Anderson said mental health curriculum was purchased for each grade level and that a $25,000 Community Foundation grant would provide a 1-year implementation of trust-based relational intervention. Norris said any struggling students should be identified through regular screenings.
Just last year, through the TIMS grant, they had a screener very similar to what we do academically, but it's going to look at-risk students for behaviors. So SABRS is a screener that we put in last year, and this year we are going to be able to hopefully do that 3 times. Last year, certain buildings did it twice. The junior high did it once, and this year our goal is to K through 8 do that 3 times. Very similar to what we do academically. 3 times a year, we put in a screener. From that screener, we're going to progress monitor those students that are at risk. So Sabres, I feel like we're ahead of the game, honestly, when we are looking at students. There are going to be students who academically can fly on a radar if we didn't have those screeners, and the same thing would happen with a student that may need some support who's at risk.
Norris stated screener results could initiate staff outreach to students in need and that mental health material is provided to parents in a monthly newsletter. The Bloomington Redevelopment Commission approved the purchase of 423 West 2nd Street during their November 16th meeting. Director of Economic and Sustainable Development, Alex Crowley, spoke about the importance of the lot purchase to the hospital site redevelopment.
That lot is not part of the transfer of property from IU Health to the city of Bloomington. And we are looking to round out the essentially that block by acquiring this lot. And we are planning to, with your approval, proceed with an immediate environmental evaluation of the lot. And this acquisition would be contingent upon that. But our hope is to be able to acquire that and fold it into the overall developable project that is the hospital site.
Crowley said the limited use of TIF funds would restrict distribution possibilities and allow time for the redevelopment planning process. The land should be purchased now. He said the lot is a critical piece of the master redevelopment plan.
While we don't know exactly what will happen on this lot and the adjacent lots, according to the master plan we were just looking at, the potential for a significant redevelopment of this entire block face is important enough to the overall master plan that we feel that just leaving it carved out, and to some extent, while we can control through zoning what would happen there, we would not really be able to, in the same way, assemble it with some of the adjacent lots.
Commissioner Eric Sandweiss said the lack of property ownership could hinder the hospital site development quality. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
Is
It
not,
is not consent.
Got consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to Cats Week. Ellettsville Town Council discussed litigation between the town of Ellettsville and Eastern Richland Sewer Corporation during their November 17th meeting. Town attorney Darla Brown explained the payment agreements.
The Eastern Richland Sewer Corporation has agreed to pay the town a net of $540,000. And that number was arrived at because the town filed a counterclaim against Eastern for a capacity payment that Eastern is not paying. And that amount, I think, is up to $1.6 million now. Eastern will pay the town $600,000 of that. Eastern claims that the town owes Eastern some money. So that amount will be subtracted, which is why I say it's a net of $540,000.
Brown said that each entity agreed to place $10,000 into a capital fund each month for capital projects such as repairs or upgrades to the water treatment plant. Brown and council member Scott Oldham clarified the account differences.
That $10,000 is for the plant itself and the ongoing. So that $240,000 total per year as it builds up. Again, so everybody understands there's 11 years left on the contract. So if we start at $240,000 a year for the next 11 years, you guys can all do the math yourself. That's almost $3 million jointly will be in that capital improvement fund, so that we can then either go improve the plant, replace the plant, add on, whatever needs to happen at a certain point to make sure that we have continuity of service across the board.
So if I'm understanding you right, Scott, we're going to have two capital accounts, and one is for a future plant or future extensions of the plant. The 540, the town is agreeing to also use for capital replacements, but those are going to be replacements of a more immediate nature, like repairs to the lines, installation of new mains, that kind of thing.
Brown stated Eastern must also pay $1,000 for each Eastern customer using Town of Ellettsville facilities.
The rates are subject to modification at the end of every 2-year period. Any increase or decrease in the rate shall be based on a demonstrable increase or decrease in the cost of performance. So that's what's got us hung up this time and why we're in litigation. I don't think that language is especially helpful. And I would like to see some language in there about a cost of service study being done every 3 or 4 years and the new rates being prepared or drafted as if the report was going to be filed with the IURC. In other words, the rates will be calculated according to standard rate-making practice in the utilities industry.
The Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners considered 2 contracts for Miller Showers Park and Griffey Lake Nature Preserve during their November 17th meeting. City landscaper Joanna Sparks presented the first contract with Ecologic for invasive plant management.
The work to be performed at Griffey Lake Nature Preserve is management of non-native invasive species Lesser celandine. And this will be the 3rd year that Ecologic has come to treat this particular pernicious invasive. It's very challenging to remove. So we've been really grateful for their expertise, and we are slowly, we're shrinking the populations and we're keeping it from spreading, which is the major goals.
Sparks said Ecologic would additionally remove turf to grow native prairie. She also presented a contract with Aquatic Control for pond maintenance.
Well, this would be the 2nd year we would contract with Aquatic Control to manage basically nuisance filamentous algae in the ponds up at Miller Showers. The pools there are designed to hold stormwater from a 170-acre area of downtown Bloomington, so the nutrient input is pretty immense. Thus, we've been struggling with huge algal blooms over the summer each year. So we contracted with Aquatic Control this year to address that situation with really pretty dramatic results. So we would be very happy to continue our relationship with them and keep fighting the algae while we're trying to expand the aquatic plant community to shade out the algae, kind of a twofold plan.
The park commissioners unanimously approved both contracts. The Bloomington City Council Climate Action and Resilience Committee held a discussion of Bloomington's draft climate action plan during their November 17th meeting. Assistant Director of Sustainability Lauren Travis presented the report.
So recent reporting shows that global emissions need to be 25% lower than they were in 2018 to put the world on the best pathway to keep global warming below 2 degrees centigrade globally. And so with Bloomington's emissions profile to remain compliant with what we've agreed to under trying to uphold the Paris Agreement and limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, we're on a good trajectory so far to keep in line with that, but we must further reduce our emissions by about 1/4 by 2030, so across the next decade. And then that would represent an entire 40% reduction from 2005.
Travis said plan implementation would create cost savings and solar-powered buildings would be the most effective reduction strategy. Monroe County Community Schools Assistant Superintendent Dr. Andrea Mobley presented a COVID-19 update during the November 17th school board meeting. She said schools are not a main transmission space for COVID-19.
Schools are the safest place for kids to be. People are getting infected outside of schools. Even in the influenza pandemic of 1918, the same conclusion, and they came to the same conclusion and kept kids in school.
Mobley mentioned a profound increase in mental health issues and lack of food security when in-person school was closed. She said when a positive case is found, immediate contact is made to all close contacts. Board member Jacinda Townsend Guides questioned Mobley on how close contacts are determined.
Then they immediately contact that family. They're contacting the principal, who's communicating with the teacher. So they're, depending on the age of the student, they may be asking questions of the student. They're asking questions of the parent. The student's there by the phone. You know, who have you been around? Have you been to any sleepovers? Have you, then we're talking with the principal, who's talking with the teacher, getting the seating chart, asking the teacher, were they in any small groups? Did they do any pullouts? Who did they eat lunch with? Who were they around in a specials class? Was it different there? Were you working as a teacher or was an aide? Was anybody working one-on-one with the student? And for how long would it have been? A total of 15 minutes over the course of 24 hours. Then we're also communicating with transportation, getting the seating chart for the bus and the attendance for the bus.
Mobley said older students are directly questioned about close contacts. She reported contact tracing also occurs for online students and that all close contacts are determined within a day of the reported positive case. And we will have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
there for me every day,
believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
To say I can rather than I can't.
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
To finish school.
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to Cats Week. The Bloomington Board of Public Safety heard an October report from the Bloomington Police Department during their November 18th meeting. Police Captain Joe Qualter said another homicide occurred in October and that there has been an increase in violent crime.
We had mentioned early on in this year our concern about increases in weapons calls, and it has been a particularly violent year in the city related to murders and that type of thing. So we're hoping that that is limited to 2020, but we certainly can't say with any certainty. So
Qualter said October was the busiest month yet for the police social worker. Police Chief Mike Dekoff spoke of the social worker's first call from the crisis negotiations team.
They had a call of a military veteran who was going through a hard time and was threatening suicide. And this actually happened on the side of the road between here and Ellettsville. And we sent quite a few resources to assist them. We sent our crisis negotiation team, our social worker, our social worker went, and it actually involved our agency, the sheriff's office, Ellettsville helped some, and Steinsville, because we had to shut down Highway 46 between here and Ellettsville to do that. It came to a successful resolution. The person surrendered his weapon and went with our negotiators and got medical treatment that he needed. And so it turned out as being a positive event where we got this guy some needed help that he was reaching out for. So we had a lot of resources involved in that. It wasn't our case, it was a sheriff's office, but nonetheless, we were there to assist them with that call.
Qualter said officers have received over 1,300 hours of ongoing training, and Dekoff mentioned the installation of a new training simulator.
It's a very large video simulator that has all kinds of different training scenarios that we will put our people through to help increase their training and their in areas of de-escalation and firearms and things like that. It is permanently set up in this training building, and so it's something that we can use regularly for training purposes for our people. So
Dekoff said BPD is in the process of advertising for newly approved positions determined in the 2021 city budget. The Monroe County Commissioners discussed a resolution to allow Rumpke Waste and Recycling to submit an application for a state solid waste permit. Rumpke plans to open a Monroe County Resource Recovery Facility. Director of Business Development, Ted Nuera, spoke about the benefits of the project during their November 18th meeting.
We believe that it will increase environmental sustainability for the community. Two, it's development of essential infrastructure. Three, it will create economic value. And four, it will conform or comply with rigorous local and state regulations relative to location, design, and operation. There's no doubt that we believe that this facility will promote public health and safety and general welfare of Monroe County.
Director of Recycling, Steve Sargent, said the site would increase local recycling capabilities. Consultant Christina Selbert said the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and Health Department would regularly inspect the facilities. She said the proposed building location was one of few possibilities.
This proposed facility is well located with good transportation access. It's in the Robinson Industrial Park south of Bloomington, just off of State Road 37. And all of our trucks are going to be arriving and leaving through a stoplight at 37 and Victor Pike. A preliminary traffic study has been done already to look at the traffic impacts in the area, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any material impact to the levels of service at the area intersections, and that's something that'll be looked at more closely through zoning as well. The property is also appropriately zoned as heavy industrial, and that's one of the few zoning designations where a transfer station can even be considered for development in the county. It's located in a designated community under the county's comprehensive plan also.
Nuera said the site would operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 days a week. The commissioners unanimously approved the resolution. Bloomington City Council discussed an ordinance to create a Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission during their November 18th meeting. Council member Isabel Piedmont Smith said the commission would provide governmental seats for underrepresented demographics.
The city council context is that we are here to represent people of Bloomington,
There are some demographic groups that we haven't heard from on matters of public safety, even though issues of public safety affect them greatly due to various forms of bigotry, prejudice, and systemic bias. And that's why we propose the formation of the CAPS Commission as a venue to hear these voices and specifically hear their recommendations for improving public safety in our community.
Piedmont Smith said the commission would report on new and existing programs which could improve public safety. She mentioned applicant preference would be given to marginalized peoples.
For example, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, LGBTQ and non-binary individuals, people who have experienced or are currently experiencing homelessness, domestic violence, or mental health problems, addiction or other, people with disabilities, people who were previously incarcerated.
Piedmont Smith said 11 members would form the commission. Councilmember Jim Sims said that some community members were disappointed in the lack of marginalized involvement to create the commission.
There are multiple organizations that work for the Black population, African American, brown people population. And if some of them are not contacted, then I think one can understand the perception in the community that there's legislation that quote unquote may affect them, but they have not been involved in their input in that until after the fact. In some cases, not every organization, but many. And that also leads to the perception of being saved, if you will. And some of the responses I've heard from many members in the community is that they don't particularly need saving. They want to participate and be involved, which they weren't at the beginning.
Mark Teller, a representative of the Bloomington Homeless Coalition, asked the council to consider the voices of those who could not join the virtual meeting. He recalled many events where homeless persons were not protected by public safety.
The day that IUPD decided to have 12 cadets without uniform, but body armor and guns, rummaging all the way through Switchyard Park. We had to get a call for that. We're not going to interfere with police, but they didn't know they were police. They weren't police. They were armed cadets, scaring the life out of your citizens.
Resident Heather Lake also expressed her support for the commission. Councilmember Susan Sandberg expressed concern for a lack of city council control on the presented issues. The ordinance was approved in a 6-3 vote with opposition from Councilmembers Sims, Sandberg, and Scambaluri. And that is all for Cats Week. Thank you for joining us. For Cats and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.